to be humble, to be kind. It is a giving of the peace in your mind, to a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is a thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. The danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibility, and heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
Good morning. Oh, thank you so much, Brian and Katya, for that beautiful prelude. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Liefert, and it is so good to be with you on this crisp December morning. Welcome, welcome. If you're visiting with us for the first time, I want to especially welcome you. We hope that no matter who you are, or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred, you'll feel welcome with us here in the fullness of your being. Everyone's invited to linger after the service. We're going to be making our way all the way across the atrium out to the social hall for a meal freely offered every Sunday. Stick around if you can for food and conversation. Today we've also got some holiday crafts on sale, as well as an opportunity to celebrate and say goodbye to our executive director, Tessa Riva. So be there if you can. We're going to end the service before that outside today. We're going to sing our last hymn, Processing Out, and we'll bless our donations for our annual food drive. Thanks everybody who brought something to contribute to that. It's not too late. I understand the food bank likes money too, so if you want to throw something in to make sure it gets to them, please do, and thank you. We acknowledge as we gather each week at this intersection of arts, justice, and spirituality that we gather on the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, and we hope that we will have the humility and the courage to live into a new solidarity with indigenous peoples and the earth, to do our part to repair what has been broken in this land they call Huichin. We are gathering at a season that can feel like everything speeds up, just as the rhythms of the earth are telling our bodies to slow down. And so we're thinking about this month, what does it mean to live at the speed of life in this season of lights? If there's something on your heart, as always, you can write it in the memory book at the back of the sanctuary, and we'll read it aloud during the service. So you can always just light a candle for a silent memory or prayer. Make that light real, but don't try and move at the speed of light. I hope that this month we each will have the opportunity to slow down, take time for what matters most in our lives. That's what we'll be talking about today, in our own good time. So would you rise in body or in spirit? And before we sing our first hymn, first we'll just greet all those folks who are joining us, not in person, but over on Zoom. We can wave to them at that back camera. We're so glad you are with us. And then I'll invite you to greet each other in the chat online while we greet each other here in person. Just say good morning to somebody near you. Hey, Bob.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Slobin, and I'm fairly new at the church, but enjoying and loving getting to know as many people as I can, as soon as I can. This morning, we're going to have cellist sliders Lynn Cahoon and Dean Flint, and they're on their way here. Thank you so much. This morning, I realized when I listened to the news that we have more problems in the Middle East with Syria, and we still, and so much are in a place of the unknown, what's happening in our world. It looks like it's crumbling, it's rebuilding, but what we do have is each other. So I found this passage in a devotional book by Henri Nouwen, and I thought, this is a perfect thing to read this Sunday. The beloved community is the place where we keep the flame of hope alive among us. We take it seriously so that it can grow and become stronger in us. In this way, we can live with courage, trusting that there is a spiritual power in us when we are together that allows us to live in the world without surrendering to the powerful forces constantly seducing us toward despair. This is how we dare to place love at the center of our values, even when we see hatred among us. This is why we claim the Spirit of life, even when we see death and destruction around us. We say it together. We affirm it in each other, our beloved community. You want to all say that? Our beloved community. It's present. It's present right now as we gather together. Thank you.
I want to tell you a story today about King Solomon. Now, maybe you've heard of King Solomon. He lived more than 2,000 years ago, and he's well known for being wise and just. So maybe you've heard a story about King Solomon and his wisdom. This is not one of those stories. So King Solomon had a guard. Let's call the guard Ezekiel. Ezekiel loved working for King Solomon, maybe because he was known for being wise and just. And Ezekiel had worked for Solomon for many, many years, done a really good job, was a quiet man who got his work done. But one day, Ezekiel was boasting to a friend that he could accomplish anything that Solomon asked of him. And King Solomon overheard this. Maybe he was having a bad day, and it annoyed him. And he thought, I should teach Ezekiel a lesson. And so he called Ezekiel to him, and he said, Ezekiel, I have a task for you. And Ezekiel said, yes, I am ready, King. What would you like me to do? And King Solomon said, you have 6 months, and you must find me a ring that will make a happy man sad or a sad man happy. Solomon thought, this is impossible. I will show him that he can't do everything for me. But Ezekiel said, of course, I will get right on this. And so he set off. He still had his regular job. So after work and on the weekends, Ezekiel began to search for a ring that would make a sad man happy and a happy man sad. He went to all of the markets in town, and nobody had any idea what he was talking about. He thought, okay, and he went down to the docks and he asked at all of the ships, and nobody had heard of such a ring. And he thought, okay. And so on his weekends, he began to travel out into the countryside, weekend after weekend, looking for this magic ring that would make a sad man happy and a happy man sad. And no one had ever heard of such a thing or could think of anyone who had ever heard of such a thing. Ezekiel began to get nervous because the 6 months were coming to an end, and he didn't want to fail his king whom he adored. But he was running out of options, and he thought, well, I'll go back one more time through the local markets. Maybe King Solomon knew something I didn't, and it's close to home. So he went back to every merchant, and again, every merchant said, no, I have nothing. And finally, he went to the market where the poorest people in town went, and he went to a shop he hadn't gone to because this woman sold very, very, very cheap rings, and he thought, well, it can't be here. And he went to the woman and he said, do you happen to have a magic ring that will make a sad man happy and a happy man sad? And she said, absolutely, no problem. And she got her cheapest ring, and she went in the back and she inscribed something in the ring, and she handed it to Ezekiel. And Ezekiel said, thank you. And then he immediately went and bought a very fancy box to put the ring in so it would look a little better. And he went back to King Solomon, who had completely forgotten about this. And he said, King, I have found the ring that will make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. And he knelt and he gave it to King Solomon. King Solomon opened the box. He read the inscription on the ring. He had been feasting and happy with friends. He read the inscription and he sighed, and he was sad. And he realized that the guard had fulfilled the impossible task. He had found a ring that would make a happy man sad and a sad man happy, because the ring said, this too shall pass. And that is my story. I'd like to invite all of the kids to come out with me to RE and to the food drive And would everybody rise and sing us out?
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. I invite you to take a deeper breath, to feel your body in this place, in this moment, to feel your connection down to the good earth, the holy earth sustaining us, holding us, no matter what. And turn inward with me now. The last yellow-brown dying leaves cling to the almost bare branches of the cherry tree outside the window. Likewise, the ficus inside clings to its last bit of life, having gotten too much water or maybe not enough. Skeletal, the branches all share an exhaustion all too familiar. One more task tickles at the back of my mind, sends a jolt through my nervous system. That really must be done today, and my attention swerves from bare branches to the alien brightness of the screen. Just one more thing reminds me of another one more thing, and soon I'm careening through a cascade of worries I have tricked myself into believing I can resolve through my endless efforts. No, the cherry tree tries to remind me. The rhythms of life require rest and release. Trust the soil and the changing sun, she says. No, the ficus quietly insists, all things will come to an end, and none of your efforts will ever give your life more meaning than it has in this moment right now. O God of bare branches, of darkening days and cold, damp soil, free us from our delusions of control. Liberate us with the reminder that life and death do not happen on our own terms. When we are full of concerns and convince ourselves that we must do more than we possibly can, bring the wind to shake our branches free. Help us to drop whatever we are clinging to and remember that our deepest calling is to love life, love the world, love ourselves exactly as it is, exactly as we are. May we rest in this stillness, this quiet together, in a love that knows we are enough, exactly as we are. Each week in this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives. Lift up those joys and sorrows among us. Marin today says, thank you, all the volunteers, for a wonderful Messiah last night. We did good. I believe this is with Brent wishing my 81-year-old mom and her cat good luck as they move into a new house, a big deal at 81. Randall asks that you keep Sylvia in your thoughts and prayers as she plows through chemotherapy. And Jane is thinking of the daughter of a friend who is going through some medical challenges. Sydney, Ildy, and Peaches, sending prayer and love to them. Cindy, Ildy, and Peaches. Don Close asks, what does love call us to do? Embrace nonviolence on all levels of human life. Someone shares prayers for the family and friends of Rachel Kane, who died recently, and prayers for Kenise with breast cancer. And amidst it all, someone shares, I love the hanging stars and sparklies. Thanks all who helped to make that light visible among us. For all that has been named aloud and all that yet remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, for all those events around the world that tug at our hearts and souls, for all that we've held here in the sanctuary and those gathering with us afar, may we know that what we bring is held in the loving embrace of this community and by a love beyond all naming, a love that cannot and will not let us go. May it be so, and amen. I invite you to remain seated as we sing again together, hymn 55, Dark of Winter. Too much. I try to do too much. Try and fit too many meetings into my days and end up with double-booked appointments. I try and respond to too many emails, and that just makes more people email me back. Too many Zoom calls, too many texts, and too much running around trying to get my kid to too many extracurricular activities. You might have noticed I try and fit too much into my sermons. Sometimes in the library, I feel this sort of existential anxiety about all the books that I'm never going to read. Do you feel this? Like this sense of just like the overwhelm of how much exists and how you're never going to get to do it all? I work so hard to fit so much in, and I still never quite feel caught up. And how absurd is that? The idea that we're not caught up, as if in this moment there are things that we should have already done that we haven't done yet, and that this moment would be somehow better if we had already done. I mean, it really is crazy. I remember it was kind of a rite of passage moment, realizing this for the first time. I was in middle school. I have kind of one of those flashbulb memories of this moment. I think it was because of my mom, Laurel's reaction. We were driving home from middle school, King Middle School, and we were right on Berryman near my house, and I was saying out loud to her, maybe 7th grade, I just feel like there's not enough time in each day, not enough time in each week to get everything done. And it was her shock that I think stuck the moment for me, her surprise that I'd be feeling that at 12 years old or however old I was. It was a coming-of-age moment, an initiation into modernity's insistence that in order to be fulfilled, we must do more than we possibly can. It's the topic of a book that I really enjoyed last summer, Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks. Anybody pick up 4,000 Weeks? He's a productivity writer. He's been a journalist thinking about all this world of people talking about time management, and he came to the conclusion that all his work was absolutely wrong-headed and wrote a book that he subtitled Time Management for Mortals. 4,000 weeks being the average life expectancy. What will you do with our one wild and precious life, asks Mary Oliver. What will you do with the finitude of your life? When I was learning how to be a chaplain down at Alta Bates Hospital, we had experienced wise chaplains come in and impart their wisdom, and we all wore pagers. One of the last remaining groups of people to use pagers are hospital chaplains, and one of the experienced chaplains came in, and just as he was about to start talking, his pager went off, and he smiled and looked at the number and said, one of the things that is essential to know as a chaplain is that you do not have to make someone else's urgency your urgency. And I think that this is one of the essential practices all of us will have to work at in this culture that demands that we do more than we possibly can in order to be fulfilled. All of us have to practice not making the urgency of others, the urgency of the culture around us, our own urgency. And man, I find it one of the most challenging practices in my life. Because in part, all of these pressures that have to be resisted, these cultural pressures of urgency, they do have to be resisted, and yet we also don't want to be trying to completely govern our own time as if we were a separate individual disconnected from everything around us. Berkman points to a study about the attempt that the Soviet Union made to organize its workforce as efficiently as possible. And their attempt was to give everybody a grouping. There were 4 or 6 or however many groups, A, B, C, D, and E, and each group had different days that they would work, and they would not overlap so that they would all keep the machinery of the industrial era going at all times. There would not be any break in the factory's work. And what this meant was that people didn't have the same time off as their friends, or even their spouses. Married couples were supposed to have the same time off, be in the same group, but oftentimes in practicality it didn't work out that way, and the population became miserable. It's not the amount of free time that brings us joy, it's having free time synced up with those who we want to spend it with. It's living our lives in harmonious rhythm with others. Our hyper-capitalist culture tries to offer this in its way. We've all just made it through the gauntlet of Thanksgiving Thursday, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday. So, thank you, Small Business Saturday. How could I forget? I mean, really, do we need it? Surviving this branded time. And if we're not careful, the whole season, the whole rest of this year, right, all the way through New Year's can feel like this gauntlet of branded time. And what it's doing inside us is that our impatience is rising, rocketing. They did a study that Amazon, if their homepage loaded 1 second slower, they would lose $1.6 billion in annual sales. And when we get everything that we need at the speed of light, then waiting in line to vote or the other tasks that require a more patient way of being become more and more unbearable. This impatience, this reactivity leads, I believe, to choices like the gunman made this week to shoot the CEO of a healthcare company. But more importantly, it leads to the online reaction after that shooting, the reactivity that fanned flames of mob justice celebration. And I understand the sentiment. To be honest with you, I remember as a teenager really enjoying a song by the local hip-hop group, The Coup, called 5 Million Ways to Kill a CEO. It's a great song. It's not a great idea. It's not a great idea. But our systems we know aren't working. And as people in despair face systems that do not serve to help and support them, they make more and more anxious, reactive choices. And we have a public square now that facilitates that reactivity at lightning speed. And this holiday season before us, it holds, I think, both possibilities. It holds, yes, this reactivity, this overbuying, frenetic activity to distract ourselves often from the pain that the holiday season summons for many of us. To numb all that uncomfortable feeling inside, we are seduced into a frenetic pace. and yet also it contains an invitation to slow down, to wait, to anticipate each day's Advent calendar opening, to hold vigil through the longest night, to light candles and sing carols on Christmas Eve. It holds the possibility of both, and of course, most of us in our lives, we're going to have elements of both. So maybe the question isn't just how do we avoid one and find the other, but find that balance. It's the question that Nigel Marsh asks in his TED Talk. And Nigel Marsh starts it like this: what I thought I would do is I would start with a simple request. He says, I would like you all to pause for a moment, you wretched weaklings, and take stock of your miserable existence. He says that was the advice that Saint Benedict gave his rather startled followers in the 5th century. He's best known for his book, Fat, 40, and Fired. Nigel Marsh. He goes on to say that it was Benedict's advice that he decided to follow himself when he turned 40. Up until that moment, I had been a classic corporate warrior. I was eating too much, I was drinking too much, I was working too hard, I was neglecting the family, and I decided that I would try to turn my life around. In particular, I decided I would try to address the thorny issue of work-life balance. And thus began this years-long journey that led Nigel to writing a book about the issue. And one of his observations jumped out at me, picking up on this thread about how do we think about time. He said, we have to be careful with the time frame that we choose upon which to judge our balance. He explains, before I went back to work, spending a year tending to my personal and family life at home, I sat down and I wrote out a detailed, step-by-step description of the ideal, balanced day that I aspired to. It went like this. Wake up well-rested after a good night's sleep. Have sex. Walk the dog. Have breakfast with my wife and children. Have sex again. Drive the kids to school on the way to the office. Do 3 hours work. Play a sport with friends at lunchtime. Do another 3 hours work. Meet some mates in the pub for an early evening drink. Drive home for dinner with my wife and kids. Meditate for half an hour. Have sex. Walk the dog. Have sex again. Go to bed. He pauses and then asks, how often do you think I had that day? Says we need to be realistic. You can't do it all in one day. We need to elongate the time frame upon which we judge the balance in our life. But we need to elongate it without falling into the trap of I'll have a life when. I'll have a life when I retire, when my kids have left home, when my wife has divorced me, when my health is failing, when I've got no mates or interests left. A day is too short, after I retire is too long. There's got to be a middle way. I'll have a life when. Do you know that litany? And we sometimes speak these litanies sometimes in church about our longings or aspirations, and I think we speak litanies in our own inner monologues to maybe reassure or convince ourselves that we're doing the best we can. And sometimes these litanies have a peculiar blend of self-compassion and self-limitation. You might recognize a litany like, oh, it would be great to meditate for an hour each day, but who has the time for that? It'd be great to spend more time getting house projects done, but who has time for that? Maybe I'll have a life someday where I can study that language, that history, that whatever it is. Someday, I'd love to devote a weekend every month to my hobby, Who has time for that? I'd love to get exercise, get more fit, but who has time for that? It'd be great to stay in touch better with my mother, father, daughter, brother, cousins. I just can't find the time. Love to spend more time with my kids, but who has time for that? Of course, I want to welcome the stranger, but I don't even have time for my own family. I'd love to take a deep breath every now and then, but who has time for that? It seems reasonable when it starts this litany, I think, but of course the logic doesn't hold up. And when I'm living from this litany, I've realized it doesn't matter whether I've filled my days with emails or adventures, even if I've scheduled in just the right amount of time for exercise and study and play. If I feel ruled by a schedule I'm trying to control, if I'm telling myself I just have to get through the next thing, I'm allowing that modernity's message that I must do more than I possibly can to rule my life. And what Berkman of that 4,000 Weeks says is that there's a theological underpinning here. That the theological underpinning is that we stay trapped when we think someday, eventually I can, we're staying trapped in an afterlife mentality. Even if we don't believe in some version of heaven or hell, this afterlife mentality gets a hold of us and makes us think that someday, other than now, will be when real life starts. And that to counteract it, we have to embrace instead the finitude of our lives. So maybe Benedict had a point. I find my own nervous system, my enjoyment and realness with this life does so much better if I walk outside every day. Especially if I can be outside at dusk and experience the light changing. I find if I give myself just 10 minutes to sit quietly first thing in the morning, I'm less likely to obsessively doom scroll on my phone. Walter Brueggemann, the theologian, points this as the great necessity of the Sabbath. He says that we have to spend one day a week remembering that we are on the receiving end of the gifts of God. And whether you call it God or life or whatever, to honor the Sabbath, to remember that alongside all our human machinations of time, there is a deeper reality, that sacred origin of time that Catherine spoke about last week. Brueggemann says in our own contemporary context of the rat race of anxiety, the celebration of the Sabbath is an act of both resistance and alternative. It's resistance because it's a visible insistence that our lives are not defined by the production and consumption of commodity goods. Such an act of resistance requires enormous intentionality and communal reinforcement amid the barrage of seductive pressures from the insatiable insistences of the market, with its intrusion on every part of our life, from the family to the national budget. And he had no idea what was coming. But Sabbath is not only resistance, it is alternative. It's an alternative to the demanding, chattering, pervasive presence of advertising and its great liturgical claim of professional sports that devour all our rest time. The alternative on offer, he offers, is the awareness and practice of the claim that we are situated on the receiving end of the gifts of God. Sabbath, sacred time. This season offers perhaps a last vestige of a commonly shared cultural practice of sacred time. The elements that create it are simple: stillness and quiet and candles, a cushion, a bell. But the choice to practice it requires enormous intentionality and communal reinforcement. Our political reality is deeply distressing. Facing the danger will require us to live with a balance and a rhythm that supports one another's and our own resilience, that roots us in sacred time, and knowing that every one of us is born whole and holy on the receiving end of the gift of life, and that all of the activism that will be required of us, all the action we take in the service of justice, can be sourced not from reactivity, but from a deeper knowing of our own beings as an expression of the rhythms of the earth, as the shape of time itself, as a part of the cadence of the cosmos. May it be so, and amen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Helen Tinsley Jones, and I'm co-president of your Board of Trustees. In our covenantal community, we share the responsibility for pursuing our mission by giving generously of our time, talent, and treasure. I invite you to support the work of our church by giving electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or by putting a cash or check donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you, and then put it into the donation box inside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of our offering is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization. The Good Neighbor for this month is Tiny Village Spirit. Tiny Village Spirit works to end the crisis of homelessness through development of decent, dignified, emergency housing, villages, and for systemic change toward creating housing justice. Will you join me in rededicating ourselves to our mission? We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. Thank you.
Buenos días. My name is Charis Domador. If you're new to our church and you'd like to learn more about how to get connected, I invite you to join me at 12:30 in the Fireside Room for our monthly newcomer Q&A, where you can learn more about what UUCB has to offer. To find out what's happening in the life of our community, you can always check the news link on the homepage of our website, where you'll find our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. This week, we have a special announcement from Social Justice, and I'll invite Natalie Campbell to talk about it some more.
Hi, good morning. I'm Natalie Campbell, and when you came in, hopefully you received this paper from Sheldon. It has all the names of the 15 good neighbor organizations that people nominated back in October and November. And this Wednesday, we're going to be having a Zoom meeting. And if you want to know how to get onto the Zoom meeting, it's on that front page that Charis mentioned before. There's a link you can click in at 7 p.m. on Wednesday from the comfort of your home. You can hear these amazing organizations talk about what they do. They'll just each speak about 3 minutes, and then at the end, we will vote for our panel of our 2025 Good Neighbor organizations. We've got 15 organizations, but only 12 months, so that's why we have to vote. So please, before you come, if you want to know more, Sheldon made this. It's got the websites, it's got mission statements, and if you'd like to know which groups we've had before or which ones are new, it's all right there. So it's all put out for you. And, do your homework beforehand and see which ones look good to you, and then you can hear them talk on Wednesday. I hope to see you there. Have a good week. See you soon.
Gracias, Natalie. On December 14th, we will hold holiday remembrance activities that include writing cards, baking and decorating cookies, and assembling them into packages for our members who are 80 and better or who have had a rough year. And our next holiday concert is on December 22nd. Come listen to La Befana, a Christmas fable, to guide you into the Christmas holiday. Tickets will be available online and at the door. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
I'm going to invite us to rise one more time in body or spirit. We're going to sing Deck the Halls. It's 2:35 in that gray hymnal. You might want to pull it out because we're going to process out while we sing this to the parking lot where we'll offer a blessing over the food that we've collected or are sending away. So we'll close the service all together out in the parking lot. Come join me. Let's deck the halls. Deck the halls with bells of holly, la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, la 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 la. Only now and then, la 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 strike the harp and join the chorus. Fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure. Fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure. Fa la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes. Fa la 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 la.